My name is John Daly, and I've got a secret. From New York, here is I've Got a Secret, starring Steve Allen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Good evening and welcome to another edition of I've Got a Secret. Now that you've met our special guest for the evening, Mr. Daly, let's meet the members of our panel, who are, of course, Betsy Palmer, Bill Cullen, Bess Meyerson, Henry Morgan, and that's our panel. Now may we have our first contestant, please? Nice to have you with us. Would you tell us your name, please, and where you're from?
Dick Munsell, San Diego, California.
Mr. Munsell is quite an unusual fellow. To begin with, he flies unusual airplanes. I'll show you exactly what I mean. That's pretty unusual, isn't it, for an airplane these days? And he also goes to unusual lengths to do unusual things with these old planes. For example, staging World War I type dogfights for motion pictures, county fairs, and that sort of thing. And the old, barnstorming, crazy stunts that you've seen of this kind. We're going to talk tonight about one incredible stunt that I personally found absolutely unbelievable. So with that introduction, Mr. Munsell, if you'll whisper to me, we'll show the audience just what your secret is. Uh-huh. Clue to Mr. Munsell's secret concerns one of his stunts. As I said, it will begin the game with Bess Meyerson this time.
Mr. Munsell, do you do this stunt inside of a plane?
Well, I'm inside flying.
You are?
We're flying.
And is it one of the old-fashioned kind?
Yes, it is.
Do you get very high in it before you...
He has to before he'll go up there.
Now, shall I pursue that question, or shall I just let it laugh there?
You won't,
No. Are you do you go off the ground in order
Yes,
to
we
fall?
do.
All right. And are you at a high elevation?
Yes, we're considerably high.
All right.
Nothing unusually high, if that's what you meant, Bess. $20 down, Henry.
Mr. Munsell, do you do this with anybody else?
Yes.
Would it be would we call it a stunt man or a stunt woman?
It can be called that, yes.
Not a professional stunt person, however.
Is the other person on the outside of the fuselage? Like
Yes.
out on the wing?
Yes, he is.
And it doesn't have to be a professional? Well...
It should be, actually, but I mean, it could go either way.
Okay, no, really, what I'm going for is this secret about what that other person does from the out on the wing?
In a sense, it's part of it, yeah.
Right, is there only one out there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, does this person leave the plane at any time?
No.
I certainly hope not. $40 down. Betsy?
Does this person perform an acrobatic stunt on the wing of the plane while you're flying?
No.
No. Does this person ever come back into the plane? Or do you land with that person on the wing?
We land with him there on the wing.
You take
The
off with
person
the
would probably
on
like
the
to get
wing?
into the plane, but
Yes.
no dice.
Do you take off with the person on the wing also?
Yes.
And that's still not the secret?
That's part of it.
That's part of it.
$60 down.
Dick, am I interested in what you do with the plane while that person is on the wing?
No.
The person just goes out on the wing, and now are we interested in what that person does out there on the wing?
You already know what is done, pretty much.
They're just standing out there, and we don't care what you do with the airplane. Who is that person who's out in the wing?
That's the question.
Are they real? Yeah.
It's himself.
Oh, you just let the airplane fly by yourself and you go... not buying that, girl. Is it a relative of yours, Dick?
No, it is not.
Is it a famous person?
Yes.
Have you done it more than once with this person?
No, it's
Is
the
it
first time.
Steve?
Yes.
A while back, Bill, when I was doing the late-night television show, Mr. Munsell performed what I consider one of the most remarkable feats in aviation history when he flew this airplane, which is about 50 years old, by the way, up into the blue California sky with me there, as you've already figured out. And, Mr. Munsell, why would an intelligent man like you let me do a stupid thing like that?
Well, I knew it was safe, Steve.
You did?
Yes, I did.
Well, I'm glad somebody did. Do you remember how high we got, what our altitude was?
We were about 1,000 feet.
Yeah. I was a little nervous when we landed, and I forgot to ask a lot of those details. Well, if for no reason but to salve my pride panel, I'm going to show you a little... Yes, Henry?
You really brought it up, Steve. Why did you do it something like that?
At the time, we had a series of death-defying stunts on the show, and each day I'd come into the office and say, "What's up today?" And they'd say, "You're going to marry an alligator or something." You know. So that day it was, "You're going to walk on the wing of an airplane." And I just did it because it was my job. Now then, we have this little bit of film here. We're going to show you the whole frightening thing, not the whole thing, but, you know, a minute or two of it, so you guys can roll the film whenever you have it all cranked up. Mr. Munsell feels this was just a routine flight, is that right?
That's right.
All right, here I am about to drop dead, actually. Isn't that an adorable scarf? Just like Richard Arlen. And here we go, taking off. Mr. Munsell at the controls, of course. Rather bumpy field. And how fast were we going, sir, when we took off there?
It was about 60 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. Just about at that point, I discovered that the helmet strap was not fastened, so I had to fly with my hand on top of it here. This view was taken from another airplane, obviously, at about 1,000 feet. I had to hold the darn helmet on my head all during the trip. And it really clears up your sinus cavities, I'll tell you. Like breezing along up there. It's kind of a windy day. We dropped down there into an air pocket, which had a little lint in it, I think. Now we're landing. And you'll notice one quick panicky wave here. Jaunty jolly, there we are. And grab my head and my Clyde again there as we come into a stop. That's my insurance man running in front of the plane there. And at this point, I get my goggles and helmet off and run forward to punch my manager right in the mouth, ladies and gentlemen. What's he?
Did you have a parachute on?
A parachute? I'd be afraid to jump in a parachute. I just trusted my friend, Mr. Munsell. You've now gotten out of that racket, I understand.
Yes.
I see. And you're now flying for whom?
Mr. Copley Newspapers.
Out in California.
Yes.
Well, we're very happy to have had you with us tonight, and it's been interesting reliving this harrowing experience. Thank you, Mr. Munsell. Back in a minute with our next contestant, but first, get a load of this. Bill was just saying that he figures Mr. Munsell got the job flying for Mr. Copley because Mr. Copley likes to fly out on the wing like that, too. The only way to fly. Now may we have our next contestant, please. Nice to have you with us. And would you tell us your name and where you're from?
Bob Armstrong from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Mr. Armstrong is the president of the ROWE, R-O-W-E, ROWE Moving and Storage Company. And his secret panel concerns his career with that company. Now, he started out as a salesman for the firm back in 1955, and he attributes his success to two important events that led to his becoming president. Now, the first took place in 1957. So if you'll whisper to me, sir, we'll show the audience what happened in 57. Uh-huh. And now the next date you gave me was 1962. What happened in 62? Good for you. The clue to Mr. Armstrong's secret concerns what happened to him. Of course, we'll start the game with Bill Cullen.
Oh. Mr. Rowe, do these two events...
Mr. Armstrong. Bill.
Just
Oh,
Bob.
Mr. Armstrong, president of Rowe. That's
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Rowe, president of Armstrong. Do these events, just on a wild guess, have to do with famous people or person?
No.
Does it have to do with the moving business?
No.
Not at all. And yet you got to be president because,
Well, there is that obvious connection, but nothing about moving stuff.
like, no one or
It
no
could have been
thing.
any company where this happened.
Were these things that happened deliberate, Mr. Armstrong, as opposed to accidental?
Yes.
You set out to have these two events occur.
Not necessarily, no.
One yes and one no there, Bill. $20 down. Bess?
Mr. Armstrong, did somebody else set out deliberately to have these things done to you?
It's yes and no again.
Yes and no again.
Really? Then there's another person mentioned in at least 1957, let's say. Is there?
Not precisely.
Not precisely.
Another person was involved, but not mentioned.
Was it some physical feat you did that impressed the chairman of the board or the president?
No, that was my cousin.
That was your cousin?
Yeah, Jack Armstrong, I think.
Was it something that happened to you in spite of yourself? Were you rather unhappy when it happened?
Yes.
$40 down. Henry?
Do you have any relatives in this company?
No.
You didn't marry the boss's daughter or anything like that?
No such thing.
Now, is this correct that something happened that made you unhappy that helped your advancement?
Yes.
Was it something that happened to someone else?
No, to me.
Were you drafted?
No.
$60 down. Betsy?
Mr. Armstrong, did something happen to you physically?
No.
Mentally?
It's one of those things where both questions are oddly enough kind of irrelevant.
But you weren't happy when this happened to you to make the advancement.
I was not happy.
He was not happy about what happened in 57.
In 57. Well, how about 62? Were you overjoyous at that point?
Let's don't put it overjoyous, but let's say that I was happy.
Did anybody die?
No.
No? Did anybody get very sick?
No.
No.
Well, this was a bit of a tough one, Pamela. When Mr. Armstrong joined the company back in 55, I don't think anybody would have guessed that in 7 short years he would rise up through the ranks to become the president. Nobody would have guessed that because after his first 2 years with the company, they fired him. And now, Mr. Armstrong, I've heard of success stories, but this is really doing it the hard way. Now, how does somebody get to be the president of a company after being fired to begin with?
It's sort of a long, hard road, but at that time I sold my home and moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and started a small business in Nashville. And in 1962, I heard of this business, the portion of this business that I worked for, and 57 was up for sale, and I purchased that portion of the business.
Do you remember now, after all these years, why you were fired in the first place?
It was a little vague at the time, and they never really gave me a direct answer of why.
Well,
But
after you took over and became the boss, did you try to find out then, and were you able to?
well, I don't think anybody bothers telling it then.
I see. Well, let this be a lesson to all bosses. Never fire a promising young man without a very good reason. I think that's very good advice. Mr. Armstrong, thank you so much for being with us. Good night. We'll meet our special guest for tonight, our good friend John Daly, in a minute after this message. According to the Morning Journal here, we're having a blizzard in New York. Before any of you start telephoning the Weather Bureau for confirmation, I'll just say this. Let's wait till we meet our special guest for the evening. He's the host. I'll be right out. There's a call for me. He is the host, as I was saying, of What's My Line, Mr. John Charles Daly.
Bill and Henry, nice to see you all.
Well, John, as all these New Yorkers know, this is not a very accurate paper. What's the explanation here?
Well, it's not really inaccurate, Steve. Actually, this is, well, we're about 79 years late.
Oh,
This is a photograph of an actual newspaper that appeared here in New York City the morning after the famous blizzard of '88. You notice the date? March 13th, 1888. It's a special snow sheet, special edition,
Yes.
icicle edition, price 1 cent.
Those are
Things
the
have
days.
changed.
Yes.
You know, the slow terror, New York tied up and cut off by the storm. There's one headline here particularly interesting: panic in midair.
Yeah.
Camel, Panel, you got any idea what this?
No, I noticed it, and they weren't flying around in 1888. No,
No LSD in those days.
Could it have been a fire and firemen up in the air?
No,
Somebody going
no
out of a
firemen up in the
window?
air.
a balloon. Betsy said balloon.
No balloons. Shall I reveal oil?
Yes. Panic.
Zeppelin.
No.
Here's the story.
A fatal collision on the 3rd Avenue elevated. Line the engineer. That's what it was.
Good old
I'll tell you now, as you can probably already figure out, panel, we have a number of other reproductions of newspapers on the easel that John has brought in this evening. And they're all featuring very important front-page stories, and they're all collected in a book which is titled The Story of America as Reported in Its Newspapers. John's going to read excerpts now from these other front pages, and it's up to you to figure out which historic event they describe. John, what's the story now?
All right, will you remove the blizzard, Steve? This is a story from the Richmond Inquirer. The headline says, "To arms, to arms." And the story begins by saying, quote, "A blow is struck which must rouse the most listless and incredulous. Prepare, prepare, the Philistines be upon you."
Any ideas, Bess?
Bill was first.
Oh, it's all right.
Oh. Was it the announcement of a war? Beginning of a war?
We're going to let have the people at home already seen it? I can't see a monitor myself at the moment. At home now, they know what the answer is.
Oh, I got an idea. Did it have anything to do with the end of Prohibition?
Anything to do with the end of Prohibition?
Yeah.
No, that was incredulous, but this has nothing to do with the end of Prohibition.
it war?
Let me give you another clue. It was understood that the council had met and were debating to send terms of capitulation to the merciless enemy. And there was another rumor that they would offer $1 million to be spared.
Did this happen back in our colonial times?
No, I don't think we could describe it as colonial. You, Steve?
No, but you're moving in the right direction historically.
Being further back.
Not that far back. Civil War area?
Civil War?
Era?
Yeah. Civil?
No. I'll give you another
American
clue. This one will
Revolution?
give it to you. About 8 o'clock, they heard violent explosions. Thick smoke and floods of light succeeded, which they concluded to be the Capitol and the President's house devoted to ruins.
Oh, Grant.
That's the English setting fire to the White House?
Right.
So it wasn't tongue-in-cheek, yeah.
Now, here is the headline. In those days, they were very small. To arms, at length a blow is struck. You notice that there. The fascinating to me, Steve, is if you look down in the left-hand corner of the front page, Queen's Drawing Room. Despite the fact that we were at war with Britain, or England in those days, they still reported the gossip. This has to do with Her Majesty's drawing room at Buckingham House. The company were conducted into the saloon. The saloon?
Right, what they were wearing. It's a typical sort of a gossip column. Yes, Bess?
What is the date of that newspaper?
1812.
Yes, August 27th, I believe it is.
Augustine, up here you'll see a lot of notices calling troops to the colors, one or two of them noting rather sharply, if you don't show up, you're a deserter, and then look out. Okay, guess we leave that there for a bit?
We'll hide the next one for just a moment here, and we'll see if we can trick you again.
All right, this next story is in the form of an eyewitness account of an important news event. Here's part of the description. Quote, "From the outer darkness, these points of light looked like drops of flame suspended from the jets and ready to fall out every moment."
Haley's Comet.
That's what I was going to say.
Good guess, but not correct. The audience at home now is being advised by print on the screen as to what the answer is, what the event was.
Would you like me to read that again?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
From the outer darkness, these points of light looked like drops of flame suspended from the jets and ready to fall out every moment.
Looks like they're going to need another...
Give another clue. Many scurrying by in the preoccupation of the first moment failed to see them, but the attention of those who chanced to glance that way was at once arrested.
The first gas lamps.
First gas lamps.
Very good guess.
Very
Howard.
good guess. Very close, but...
Keep going in that
How
direction.
about the first electric light bulb?
Well, actually, it was the first electric street lights, reported to the New York Tribune of September 5th, 1882. New York Herald here.
Edison's illuminators.
Edison's illuminators. The first district brilliant with the incandescent lamp. The isolated system is a successful operation. Look at these squigglies here, Steve. They're interesting.
Lisa Jou's curves. I don't know who Lisa Jou was.
Never met her, no.
She had a lot of fine curves.
Had a lot of it. Now, these actually have to do with the story on the phonograph. And it says here, I will show you the experiments of Lisa Jou, and these are schematic vibration pictures from the tuning fork vibrations at different notes.
Fascinating. You have another one, John?
Yes, we have another one, too. Let's see. For this story, why don't we let them look at the newspapers, since I think it'll give them enough trouble anyway. As you can see, this event took the entire front page, except for some advertisements on the first 2 columns and a half. I'll read the headlines. We'll see if you can figure out the story. Here are the headlines. The great battle at here's the great battle at Richburg, Mississippi, 105 miles from New Orleans.
I will let the audience at home and in the studio see what that event was. Or perhaps that's already been done. There it is.
And another headline. I'll give you one more headline because you can't read it. That is Scenes and Incidents of the Most Remarkable Encounter on Record.
Any ideas, panel? I think they're going to need another good big hint.
Can we ask a question?
Yes.
Was it on the water?
No.
No.
It says here, though, the 2 hours and 13 minutes of heavy fighting.
Was it a prize fight?
Yes, Bill.
In those days. Do I have to know?
1989.
Do I have to know who?
Yes.
Sure.
Jack Johnson.
No.
John L. Sullivan.
John L. Sullivan.
There's a picture.
He won the heavyweight championship. He was fighting Jake Kilrain.
Yeah.
And this is the New Orleans Picayune of July 9th, 1889. This is a story of the first 17 rounds, and then it bled inside. They fought 75 rounds with bare knuckles, no gloves of any kind, and Sullivan did not score a knockout. Jake just got tired and decided he had enough of it. Wise man after 75 rounds, too. Oh, look down here, Steve, before you take that away. A nice little ad down here. It says, opium and whiskey habits treated in the home inexpensively. We can only assume that opium was easily had in those days.
Yes. They used opium to stop the whiskey habit and whiskey to stop the opium habit.
You want to go another one?
Yes, I think we have time.
All right. The sub-headline of this story panel reads, Boston passes calmly to new order of things.
The Boston Tea Party.
No. Good guess. The audience at home now knows what that was.
Give you some more clues. Sharp were the contrasts to the spectacles of previous evening. Gone was the zest and sparkle, the brilliant gaiety which attended last night's great outpouring of Bohemia.
Of what?
Bohemia.
Oh.
Boston.
Must have been an opening of some sort in Boston.
Was the introduction of something?
Passing of a bill?
No, was it an opera?
No.
Was it something in the theatrical?
I think they need another bit of help.
All right, one more clue. The report went on to say that there were great empty spaces in dining rooms and that some were closed altogether. The evening witnessed almost sedate contrasts to the bibulous scenes of the preceding evening.
Boston.
They were really swinging.
There's a big party there.
And then it stopped.
Yeah, it was a
And then
big
And
party.
then it stopped.
Yeah.
Why did it stop?
Why did it stop?
Because all
Well,
the
there's
tea
that-
was in the harbor.
No.
They ran out of liquor and opium.
They ran out.
They ran out of prohibition.
Here it is. Whole nation goes dry. Boston passes calmly to new order of things. That's pretty good stuff.
Look at that little story, tiny story down there, John.
Oh, yeah, look at this, too, Steve. League of Nations has first session. And down here, as Steve found this on the page, Coolidge Quarters opened in Chicago. And this is January 17th, 1920, so this is probably the first move to nominate Calvin Coolidge for the presidency and ultimately to the presidency.
Well, John, we haven't run out of historic events, but we have run out of time. This is the second time now you've done this on the show. I do hope you'll join us again very soon. I think this is one of the most fascinating things we do here. John Daly, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back 1 minute after this important message.
Come on, Mike. Hey, we're back.
Well, sir, we just have time left to say thanks again to John Daly. John, we'll see you next Sunday night on What's My Line?
Yep.
And we'll see all you folks right here next Monday. Good night, panel.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Down by Malcolm Starr, Jules by Van Cleef and our pals.
Sheriff Deadeye's up for re-election against lovely Lulu Trueblue, alias Edie Adams, tomorrow night in color on the Red Skelton Hour. Join Joseph Fenty for the first film reports on overnight nationwide, worldwide developments on the CBS Morning News weekday mornings.
This program was pre-recorded. This is John Cannon.